Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, let's talk some boxing. So, I had someone from a video called Floyd Mayweather and Erislandy Lara versus Canelo Alvarez, Boxing versus Running 2, who made a statement and requested that I make a video on slick, skilled boxers not wanting to fight slick, skilled boxers. I want to give a big shout out to Pablo Naples at this point in time. Much love to you, brother. And he asked that question. In fact, the exact question's right here. And it says, you need to do a vid on how skilled boxers. Okay, let me try that again. Reading is fundamental. You need to do a vid on how skilled boxers do not want to fight skilled boxers. Erislandy Lara will call out GGG, but not Hassan Enda. Lara will call out Keith Thurman, but not Timothy Bradley. So, here's the video. Pablo, I'm making the video on this right now. And I'm going to try and present this information to you as succinctly as possible. Let's use Erislandy Lara as your example, okay? Alright, so sadly, there are not many slick, skilled fighters out there. Maybe you got a handful of them. Floyd Mayweather's one of them. Who's actually extremely popular. Like everybody knows them, right? But everybody knows GGG. And people are really starting to know Keith Thurman because he's making a splash in his division. So, Erislandy Lara is basically doing a marketing promotional ploy by associating himself with two popular boxers. That's what he's doing. Sadly, Keith Thurman is more popular and more relevant at this time than Timothy Bradley, who is much more experienced than Keith Thurman, and we would say more skilled even than Keith Thurman at this point in time, and has fought better opposition. But sadly, Keith Thurman is more relevant. In boxing, it's what have you done for me lately? And Timothy Bradley, he drew with Chavez, whereas Keith Thurman blew Robert Guerrero out the water, okay? GGG keeps on knocking out everybody. Martin Murray, his last victim. So Erislandy Lara is associating himself with these guys, okay? In boxing, there are a number of factors why you don't see a lot of slick, skilled boxers, and I'm assuming you mean slick, skilled as in pure boxers, right? Guys who are pure boxers. You don't see a lot of slick, skilled boxers facing slick, skilled boxers these days, but hopefully the different governing bodies will make mandatories fight each other. All right. So there are a number of factors that are involved here. So let me just use Erislandy Lara as an example and explain these factors very quickly. One, demographics. In business, you deal with demographics, and unfortunately, the demographics that really support boxing at this time are the Latino communities and the Mexican communities. They're the guys that really buy the fights. They buy pay-per-view. They're really interested in boxing. And these guys are toe-to-toe guys. A lot of them don't really appreciate the slick, skills, pure boxing style of boxing. That's just what it is. They come to see blood, they come to see gore, they come to see knockouts. Okay? So guys like Keith Thurman and Triple G, they're entertainment for them because they know this fight's going to end in a knockout. Okay? So Erislandy Lara, who's a slick, skilled boxer, he wants to tap into that. So he's going to have his style versus their style. Point number two, using Erislandy Lara as my example. Styles make fights. So Erislandy Lara, he's a pure boxer, which means he's going to fight on the outside. His strong game is outside fighting. Whereas Triple G, he gets in close, he comes into you, he gets you to the ropes, and he bangs on you. Same thing with Keith Thurman. Now Keith Thurman can fight on the outside as well, but Keith Thurman does most of his destructive work, you know, trying to get past your defense. Okay, so as a result, if Erislandy Lara, he thinks his advantage is on the outside and moving, whereas Triple G, he's trying to trap him. It's a difference of wills, and it makes for an exciting fight. Okay, styles make fights. So Erislandy Lara versus Austin Trout, some people thought, that, especially the casual fan, they thought it was boring because it was a chess match, there wasn't too much going on. Even though Erislandy Lara dropped Trout, they still thought it was a boring match because both guys are fighting on the outside. And there's a lot more strategy to it. So the second factor that answers that question is styles make fights. Then the third factor is historically, slick skilled boxers generally are black boxers, but there are a number of slick skilled boxers who are not. And as a result of that, slick skilled boxers, black fighters historically have not really fought black fighters or given them opportunities throughout history, mainly because of marketing, demographics, etc. Okay, which is very sad. But I'm hoping sanctioning bodies will sort of enforce the mandatories and the people who, so we can have true champions out here. So, exemptions to those rules are Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hearns and Hagler, okay? But generally speaking, you know, throughout history, you go back to the days of the great Jack Johnson, he fought mostly non-black fighters and after he became heavyweight champion. And so, because of demographics, you generally tend to have people who are not slick, skilled fighters fighting you, okay? So that's the reality of that. So those are some of the points why that doesn't happen very regularly. However, I'm hoping to see Amir Khan versus Floyd Mayweather sometime along the line in his career, as well as probably Mayweather versus Erislandy Lara. Who knows? Mayweather has had his decent share of black, slick, skilled fighters, but usually these guys had to be really popular. People needed to know who they were, and then you'd go in, because being relevant is also very important in the sport. Remember, in the pros, it's about business because you need to get money, and it's also about the craft. Okay, so I believe that's the reason why you don't see a lot of that. But I'm hoping that the sanctioning bodies will actually start to allow mandatories to face their mandatories, and I think that will help to change the situation. Also, fighting a slick skilled fighter, a slick fighter fighting a slick fighter is a tougher fight than a slick fighter, say, fighting a pressure fighter who is not as highly skilled as he is. So that's another reason as well. Alright, you guys have a great day.